is to finish the Kingdom Protista. Okay, so there are quite many learning outcomes about Kingdom Protista. Okay, first of all, you just need to state unique characteristic. Okay, hanya kena ingat beberapa ciri khas untuk Protista sahaja. Okay, khas untuk Protista, kita tak perlu sampai tahap menerangkan already. That's why MCQ sahaja. That's why kita hanya ada MCQ sahaja, okay, untuk chapter ini sekarang. Tetapi disebabkan untuk assignment, we need you all to spend a little bit time to explain it. Okay, lepas tu, kita memerlukan student state classification of Protista. Macam mana Protista di-classified? So, we only focus on 2 phyla in first year. Tahun pertama, kita fokuskan 2 phyla sahaja. Iaitu pertama sekali phylum Chlorophyta, fokuskan pada satu contoh sahaja, Chlamydomonas species. The second phylum is phylum Rhizopoda. We only focus on the typical example amoeba species. After that, we have to focus on 3 importance of Protista. Importance di sini dalam biologi kan, importance maksudnya peranan dia dalam semula jadi. Okay, their natural role, or we say the impact to the ecosystem or the impact to other living things. So, kepentingan di sini bukan maksudnya semua yang berkaitan dengan positif punya. Dia sebenarnya merujuk kepada peranan dia dan dia punya interaksi dengan hidupan-hidupan yang lain. Okay, so saya teruskan kepada cara macam mana kita mengingat atau kita remember unique characteristic of each kingdom. Because you remember, we have to study at least 5 kingdoms, okay, which are Kingdom Monera, Protista, Plantae, Fungi, and Animalia. We have to remember their unique characteristic. So last time I always encourage the senior, if let's say you are unable to remember all during exam, at least remember 5 for essay writing. After that, no more essay, I ask them to remember 3. Okay, 3 itu boleh datang daripada keyword yang digunakan oleh Whittaker 5 Kingdom System. Itu, Whittaker dia kadangkan macam mana 5 Kingdom System ini boleh difokus sebenarnya berdasarkan first criteria, which is the level of cell organization. Adakah living things itu consist of prokaryotic cell or eukaryotic cell? Or second criteria, we focus on the types of organisms. Kalau dia eukaryotic cell sahaja dijumpai dalam living things itu, adakah organism itu unicellular atau multicellular? And the last criteria suggested by the Whittaker 5 Kingdom System adalah mode of nutrition. Mekanisme dia. Macam mana dia mendapatkan makanan atau kita kata food source dia. So kalau dia boleh menghasilkan makanan sendiri, cara dia auto. Sebabkan dia adalah living things, jadi kita ada trough di belakang. So chapter 2 kamu akan study makna trough. Okay. Tetapi kalau dia terpaksa ambil makanan daripada sumber lain, kita panggil dia hetero. Sebab dalam semester 1 kita sudah study. Hetero ada maknanya different. So different source. So this is about organism. So kita ada suffix trough. Plus, maybe the way I present is a bit different with your lecture notes, but it's very similar. I arranged the point according to the characteristic suggested by 5 Kingdom System. Lepas tu, saya akan susun karakteristik itu ikut dia punya reproduction. Lepas tu, dia punya interaction dengan living things yang lain. Dan seterusnya adalah dia punya habitat. Itu yang paling mungkin tidak penting untuk dibincangkan dan tidak popular sebagai skema punya, saya letak di akhir sekali. Okay, so kita mula dengan pertama. Macam mana saintis dia, bila dia menjumpai satu organisma yang baru, dia tahu organisme organism ini belongs to Kingdom Protista is notice to are they eukaryotes. So if they are eukaryotes, usually they will consider they are Kingdom Protista atau Kingdom Plantae atau Kingdom Animalia atau fungi. Jadi ada banyak pilihan di sini. So how they restrict to Kingdom Protista is they need to study another characteristic. So they will notice Kingdom Protista organisms mostly, kebanyakannya, mostly, almost 80% of the members under the Kingdom Protista, they are unicellular. Iaitu, walaupun dia satu sel sahaja, dapat menunjukkan sifat-sifat hidupan. They able to undergo respiration, they able to undergo digestion, pencernaan, and then they able to undergo reproduction. The last, they able to undergo excretion, perkumuhan. Okay, so these are the 4 main living processes. Okay, tetapi ada member bawah Kingdom Protista, even though they are unicellular, but they are live as a group, like a colony. That's why we call it as colonial. Okay, so this all actually is unicellular, but they must live in group. The last one is some of the living things under Kingdom Protista, they are multicellular. Even though they are multicellular, we need the student to remember they are simple multicellular. Why we say they are simple? Because they do not achieve until the organ level. Hanya sel, lepas tu even tissue pun jarang dijumpai. Okay, that's why we call it as simple multicellular. So Nota you ada mentionnya not through tissue there. Okay. Lepas tu kita tengok karakteristik yang seterusnya. Kalau kita sudah nampak dia eukaryotes, and then they are unicellular, dia katakan members ni mesti bawa Kingdom Protista. Lepas tu, some of them are photoautotroph. That means they able to produce their own food, but they need sunlight because they have to undergo photosynthesis. Some, they have to obtain the food from other resources. Okay, so they are heterotroph, but there are some of them able to perform both. They can produce their own food by using the sunlight energy, or we say go through the photosynthesis. At the same time, they're able to obtain the food from other resources. Okay, so after the 3 main characteristics, now we can study the next living processes. Some of the protista, some of the protists, they will undergo asexual reproduction. Okay, but some of the members, they will reproduce in both ways. Okay, reproduce in both ways, depends on the environment. Okay. The next is their ecological interaction. How they interact, or what is their main role in the ecosystem. So, protista, they will live as a symbionts. Symbionts di sini maksudnya hubungan dia mungkin adalah membawa benefit to another partner. Kita panggil dia mutualistic. Iaitu, kalau katakan protist atau member di bawah Kingdom Protista ini, dia akan hidup dengan mutualist with another member, I mean another hidupan, another living things, right? Mutualistic means both of them will get the benefit. But if the members under this kingdom, they perform harmful effect to another living things, they are function as a parasite. Jadi symbionts ini tak semestinya membawa benefit to other living things. It can bring harmful effect to another living things. Okay, hanya nama dia berbeza. Kalau bawa benefit, namanya mutualistic. Kalau bawa harmful effect, parasite atau parasitic. Okay, the last one is we look at their habitat. Can say almost all are aquatic organisms. Okay, so we just say mostly, like this one, mostly. Okay, so usually habitat is not a good example as a unique characteristic. Okay, because why? Some of the other organisms from another kingdoms, they are also aquatic, okay, inhabitants. So we always arrange it as a last example. Sorry, a last point. Okay, Kingdom Protista can be classified according to their characteristic. If they have the characteristic like plants, we call it as plant-like Protist. Bukan tumbuhan ya, dia hanya macam tumbuhan. Plant-like Protist. This we call it as algae. However, if they perform the characteristic like animal, we call it as animal-like Protist. The biological term is protozoa. Okay, so here are the two main classes. Okay, now we look at algae. Yeah? I would like to move on to algae. Algae can be mainly divided into two phyla. Phylum, the other two words of phyla. The first one is phylum Chlorophyta, which the common name is green algae. Second is phylum Phyophyta, which is the brown algae. Okay, how these two phyla can be divided? Actually, scientists will focus on their photosynthetic pigment. What kind of pigment can be found, which is very important in the photosynthesis? So for Chlorophyta, nama dia ada chloro. So pigment dia, the main pigments are chlorophyll. So there are two types of chlorophyll very important in their photosynthesis, which are chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. However, for the Phyophyta, because phyo actually is the term related with brown, okay, this is related with their pigment, which is fucoxanthin. Okay, fucoxanthin. Okay, so here are the two main phyla. Sebenarnya ada banyak, tapi kita fokus dua ini untuk sepanjang 2 tahun punya program. Okay, now I look at the right hand side. Kita tengok right hand side. However, protozoa atau animal-like Protist, it can be divided into 4 phyla. Okay, based on how they move. Okay, how they move here, the locomotion. The first one is Euclinophyta. Example is Euglena species. Second is Rhizopoda. The example is Amoeba. The third one is Heliophora. The example is Paramecium. The last one is Epicomplesa. Example is Plasmodium. So these are the 4 phyla of protozoa based on the way how they move. So please remember here, algae, protozoa, green algae, brown algae, they are common name. So it's not compulsory to capitalize the name. Bukan wajib untuk huruf besar kan. Tapi kamu tengok Chlorophyta, Phyophyta, dan sehingga yang di sini Euglena, Rhizopoda, Heliophora, Epicomplesa, all start with the capital letter. Huruf pertama mesti huruf besar. Sebab dia nama phylum. Dia nama khas. Okay, what I need to draw attention is, for our first year, untuk tahun pertama, we only focus on one phylum for each group. Kita fokus satu phylum saja, iaitu Chlorophyta sebagai wakil untuk algae, manakala Rhizopoda sebagai wakil untuk protozoa. Okay, tapi tadi saya go through semua because some of you already move on to your assignments, so you may need this information. And at the same time, second year you have to cover all also. Okay? Okay. Kalau saya laju, please stop me. I move on. I would like to start with our first class, or we say the first group of the Protist, which is algae. Okay? And the typical example we are going to study is actually Chlamydomonas species. We only remember the genus name, so need to memorize the specific term. I mean the specific epithet. Okay, remember the genus name. Always capitalize the first letter and italic when you type in your assignment. If you choose to handwritten, you must underline. Okay, remember it. Okay, Chlamydomonas is an example from phylum Chlorophyta. This is the name of phylum. The shape is like a pear, and they are unicellular autotroph. Tengok di sini ada 3 maklumat. Pertama, bentuk dia berkaitan dengan dia punya ciri. Kedua, dia adalah unicellular punya organism. Iaitu, walaupun dia satu sel sahaja, dia telah menunjukkan ciri-ciri hidupan. Like I said just now, 4 main living processes can be performed. And if you look at the last term, istilah terakhir menunjukkan dia punya mode of nutrition. Okay, mekanisme untuk mentapakkan makanan. Okay. So kita teruskan. Kenapa dia dinamakan, kenapa Chlamydomonas species will be grouped under algae, or we say plant-like protists. The main reason is because they have the cell wall. Okay, so this is the typical example of Chlamydomonas. And second, why they are plant-like protists is because they have a very conspicuous chloroplast. Organel chloroplast dia sangat plus, sebab dia bentuk macam cawan ya. These whole things are chloroplast. Okay, are very conspicuous organelles. And they have the photosynthetic pigments, like I said just now, which are chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Okay, now we look at another structure typical to Chlamydomonas is the pyrenoid. They have the protein body. Pyrenoid is not an organelle, it's a protein body which is very obviously observed under the microscope. The function is for starch formation and store. Okay, this is the function of pyrenoid. And now we look at here. Near to their chloroplast, there's a red color spot. We call it as red stigma, or actually function as their eye spot. Okay, so this is how to detect the changes in light intensity. Then they're able to move. Is it they move towards the light or move away from the light, class? What do you think? Class?
To the light.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, eye spot ini will detect the changes in light intensity. If increase in light intensity, maksudnya keamatan cahaya kalau tinggi, dengan senang kata terang, Chlamydomonas will move towards it, menghadapi dia. Kenapa, kelas? Why they move towards the light?
Because photosynthesis.
Siapa yang buka mic kata photosynthesis?
I know.
Okay, sebab kamu nampak tadi saya ada highlight ya, unique characteristic of green algae atau chlorophyta, they are autotroph. They can produce their own food. So here, the way they produce their own food is photosynthesis. So they will move towards the sunlight, and then photosynthesis will happen at the chloroplast. And the main pigments to function is the chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B. Okay, I move on here. Okay, now you look at this two structure. Seniors always confused. Thought this is the eye spot. No, eye spot is only one in red color usually. Of course, in exam paper, it cannot perform red, but it's always near to the chloroplast. Here is the contractile vacuole, okay, which is help in control the water content in the cytoplasm of the organisms. Okay, now we look at these two flagella. Here are a pair of flagella found in the Chlamydomonas help in their locomotion. Tolong mereka bergerak. Okay, now we look at here. So here is the GIF, show you how the Chlamydomonas move in their habitat. Okay, bergerak dalam aquatic ecosystem dia. Okay, so flagella cannot be observed very clear if we observe under the microscope because it's a very fine structure, but you can see how they move. Okay, very fast one. Okay, now I would like to move on to the next characteristic, which is their reproduction. Okay, method. Okay, as I say, they can reproduce sexually or asexually, and they're able to show alternation of generation. Iaitu kita kena fokus pada life cycle. Okay, kelas ini hanya gambar, ini hanya untuk extra knowledge sahaja. Okay, you don't need to memorize the whole drawings. Okay, because I use the drawing just to explain sexually and asexually. Okay, so you can notice the Chlamydomonas here be able to perform alternation of generation in life cycle. Maksudnya kalau kita tengok life cycle dia bermula daripada waktu dia muda sehingga dia mature, itu panggil dia life cycle. Life cycle dia menunjukkan giliran, iaitu dia ada alternation of haploid and diploid generation. Okay, so saya selalu bermula dengan mengikut nombor yang dicadangkan dalam buku Campbell. So kalau saya start dengan satu Chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas ni yang mature punya very special. Kalau kita study dia punya nucleus kan, because they are eukaryotic cell, they have the nucleus. If we study the nucleus, we notice that chromosome is haploid set. Okay, haploid set. Yeah. This Chlamydomonas able to perform two types. Yeah. We call it as positive type and negative type. Kita jarang panggil dia male or female. No, we just call it as mating type. Okay, menunjukkan opposite punya. Okay, so when the Chlamydomonas which are mature but they are haploid, so we call this generation as the haploid generation. Yang diwarnakan dengan biru. Okay, you can see this is haploid generation. They will undergo the fertilization by fusion. Dia akan bergabung until they form a zygote. So this is the zygote stage. Which, okay, when they fertilize, they fuse, right? They form the diploid zygote. Okay, so this is sexual reproduction. Ini berlakunya sexual reproduction already because it involve the mating type yang berfungsi seolah-olah sebagai gamete. Okay, okay. So this zygote will undergo meiosis. Okay, so we study in semester 1 from the diploid cell. Once they undergo the meiosis, they will produce the haploid. Okay, so this is the haploid. Okay, Chlamydomonas will be formed and then they will grow and become mature. So they will become mature, will move on to the next step, or they will repeat like their previous parenting cell, predator cell. Okay, dia akan berulang. So itu maksudnya alternation of generation. Daripada haploid jadi diploid, lepas tu dia haploid semula. Okay, you notice or not, as I say, the reproduction can be sexual or asexual. Okay. Bila berlakunya sexual, bila berlakunya asexual adalah ikut environment tu. Okay. Kalau environment tu adalah adverse environment. Adverse maksudnya environment yang tidak memihak atau tidak disukai oleh algae tersebut. Sorry, di sini ada tulis ya. When the Chlamydomonas, they notice that now they have the unfavorable environment, maybe because of the nutrient shortage, makanan sudah tak cukup disebabkan persaingan atau the drying season, okay, or other stress from the environment or from the surrounding, right? The mature cell will develop into the gametes. Like I said just now, the mating types of gametes until they undergo the fertilization. Okay. Bila keadaan jadi tidak begitu disukai oleh Chlamydomonas, adalah sangat penting melalui sexual reproduction supaya dia boleh menghasilkan new generation yang ada variation, ada keberbagian. Sebab dia sudah mendapati bahawa sekarang punya environment dia rasa tak stress. Jadi new generation tu mesti lebih kuat atau boleh menyesuaikan diri dengan baik. So they will undergo sexual reproduction. Tetapi kalau keadaan tu tadi pulih memihak atau kita kata menjadi favorable untuk Chlamydomonas kan. Kalau keadaan tu sangat environmental tu sangat favorable, jadi itu adalah waktu emas untuk dia menghasilkan population yang banyak. Jadi waktu tu dia akan menjalankan asexual reproduction. Sebab asexual reproduction adalah metod yang lebih cepat, boleh menghasilkan individu dengan banyak. Itulah kita kata dalam hukum semula jadi, population akan ada tendensi untuk menghasilkan generation yang lebih banyak kuantiti. Okay, demi kekuatan atau kita kata kekuatan populasi dia. Okay. Now I move on to the animal-like protists. Okay, I already move on to the second class ya, atau second group, maaf, second group of Protista, which is the protozoa. And as I say, we only focus on one phylum in the first year, which is Rhizopoda. The typical example is amoeba, and they are motile, able to move freely, and they are unicellular organisms. It means that even one cell, they are able to show the characteristic of living things, and they are able to produce their own food. Or another way around, they have to obtain the food from different source. So namanya heterodrof. Okay, so amoeba species kenapa dimasukkan dalam phylum Rhizopoda sebabkan perkataan poda ini. Okay, poda sebab amoeba species be able to form the pseudopodium. Kita panggil dia kaki palsu. Okay, the false foot. Why we call it as pseudopodium? Because the structure, this podium atau kaki ini, dia bukan permanent punya. Okay, they will be formed when the cytoplasmic content extend it. Okay, cytoplasm punya kandungan itu seolah-olah macam jelly-like structure. They able to extend, push the membrane of the cell to form a pseudopodium. Okay. This is why I say they are animal-like because they have no cell wall. Okay, even though they do not have the cell wall, but they have the structure to maintain the shape of it. Okay, this is what we call as a gel with actin network. Okay, atau pellicle. Okay, and the inner cytoplasm yang dalaman sikit punya kawasan adalah lebih cair. Okay, yang luar punya lebih jelly-like structure. Okay, untuk make sure the shape is maintained. And the fluid inner cytoplasm is the one can move more freely. This is why they're able to extend, okay, to extend the cytoplasmic content to form the pseudopodium. Ini datang daripada inner cytoplasm yang lebih fluid. Okay, kalau kita tengok gambar yang schematic diagram, maksudnya lukisan demi tujuan pendidikan punya. Yang tadi ini adalah bawah mikroskop. Yang ini adalah schematic diagram. Okay, schematic diagram, there are a few a few organelles are specific to amoeba species. Okay, since we say they are protozoa, which is a member under the Kingdom Protista. Okay, so that means they are eukaryotes. They have the true nucleus. Okay, so the genetic material, or we say the chromosome, is found in the nucleus. Okay, and again, they are under Rhizopoda because they have the pseudopodium. Okay, and the cytoplasm can be divided into two regions. The outer region, which is more jelly-like, kita panggil dia ectoplasm. Like just now I say, the inner cytoplasm is endoplasm, which is a bit fluid, more fluid. And in the cytoplasm area, we notice there are two types of vacuole. Okay, the foot vacuole and the contractile vacuole. Again, the contractile vacuole is not only found in the Chlamydomonas, but it can be found in the amoeba species to control the water content. Okay. So now I move on to the last learning outcome, why we need to study a Kingdom Protista. Okay, protist adalah istilah biasa. Okay, so bila kamu tengok buku Campbell dalam nota kan, kadang-kadang kita tulis perkataan protist, kita tak ada huruf besar, jadi kata umum sahaja. Tetapi protista adalah nama khas, sebab dia nama kingdom. Okay, so saya patah balik kepada yang pertama sekali ialah they function as a food source. So we focus on the green algae, which is Chlorella species. Okay, tadi kita study Chlamydomonas, tapi sebenarnya bawah Okay, sekejap apa tadi sekejap. Bawah phylum Chlorophyta ada banyak lagi spesies. But only in our syllabus, we focus on the Chlamydomonas. Okay, however, when we teach about importance, we introduce you one more, Chlorella species. So this is the example of Chlorella species. They are unicellular, and you can see the cell wall is very, very conspicuous. Sangat jelas ada cell wall di sini. Dan tujuannya the whitish green. Okay, so sorry. I have the typing error here. It's supposed not the phyto. It's zooplankton. Okay, it's zooplankton. Sebab dia adalah seolah-olah plant-like. Okay, plant-like protist. Dia berfungsi seolah-olah macam sumber makanan dalam aquatic ecosystem. Jadi yang makan dia punya mesti herbivores atau kita panggil primary consumer. Dalam aquatic ecosystem, primary consumer ini selalu bermula dengan zooplankton yang sangat kecil saiz. Okay, yang bawah ini sebenarnya adalah sedikit reminder untuk saya di mana dia tak sesuai untuk dimasukkan dalam kita punya nota sekarang. Sebab food source, perkataan food source. Okay, dulu kita ajar sebab kita nak student tahu banyak research paper telah membuktikan bahawa Chlorella species merupakan green algae yang sangat tinggi nutritional value dia. Nilai nutrisi dia sangat tinggi. Utamanya protein content dia. So they are always used as a supplement. Okay, this is the supplemental atau kita kan kata commercialized Chlorella species. Okay, so I move on to the next, pathogenic. Okay, pathogenic is the means that some of the protists under the Kingdom Protista, they're able to cause disease. So we say they are pathogenic. So the typical example is Plasmodium species, which is an animal-like protist. Atau kita panggil dia protozoa. Okay, dia macam haiwan, protozoa. Dan inilah phylum yang kamu akan study dalam tahun kedua. Epicomplessa phylum. Okay, what is the disease caused by the Plasmodium species is actually malaria. Okay, malaria disease. Okay, this is because of the vector mosquito sini. Okay, mosquito Anopheles species. Okay, Anopheles species ini adalah berfungsi sebagai pembawa. Jadi kita panggil dia vector. So, let's say usually Anopheles species, once they already, they already suck in the blood that has been infected by the parasite. Tengok di sini ya, human ini sebenarnya telah infected by the Plasmodium species. And the Plasmodium species, they have many stages which is not in the syllabus anymore. So kamu tak perlu hafal perkataan yang pelik-pelik ni, tak payah ya, jangan. Hanya saya introduce sedikit saja. Okay, Plasmodium species ini, when they are infect human, bila dia menjangkiti human, okay, target organ dia sebenarnya adalah liver. Okay, liver ya. So di liver dia akan develop jadi beberapa peringkat yang kita kata merozoid. Merozoid adalah peringkat yang akan masuk blood circulatory system, iaitu they will infect the red blood cell. In the red blood cell, they develop again to another level, another stage. And this is the stage will be found in the blood system, or we say in the blood tissue. So when the blood is taken by the mosquito, and the mosquito, within the body of the mosquito, the Plasmodium species will develop into the matured one, which is the oversight here, yang ini. Okay. So dalam sini, dalam mosquito punya salivary gland, dia akan simpan ya, they will be found here in the salivary gland of the mosquito. So when this mosquito is the infected mosquito, they already carried the parasite. So when they bite another human, bila dia gigit human yang sihat, walaupun sihat, Tetapi disebabkan sekarang Plasmodium species ni dijumpai dalam salivary gland ini, dia akan masuk dalam circulatory system dia sebagai sporozoa. As I said just now, go to the blood circulatory system, it will be transported to the target organ, which is the liver. Okay, so this is how the Plasmodium species cause malaria in human. Okay, now I move on to the next is the sewage treatment. Okay, sewage treatment adalah berkaitan dengan kegunaan dia kepada human living level, human living style. So, yang digunakan sebenarnya adalah protozoa. Okay, the protozoa will be used in the sewage treatment system because protozoa animal-like, okay, animal-like protists, that means they are heterodrof. Dia ada sifat macam haiwan. Dia tak boleh hasilkan makanan sendiri, dia terpaksa ambil makanan daripada sumber laut. Jadi apa cara dia buat ialah dia akan makan, feed on bacteria or some of the excess, berlebihan punya organic nutrients they found in the wastewater. Okay, iaitu air daripada household, okay, air pembuangan tu mesti ada banyak bakteria, ada banyak organic nutrients yang tidak membawa apa-apa manfaat kepada sistem untuk diminum semula. Jadi kita manfaatkanlah peranan protozoa sebagai heterodrof to remove it. Okay, so this is how the system perform. So where is the protozoa perform their function? Actually is at here, the digester. Okay, at the digester here. So until they produce, of course, it's not only protozoa. We have many steps there. Okay, it's not in our details. It's not in our main syllabus now. Okay, there are many details here. At the end, the purpose is to produce a clean water. I mean a safe water when they release into the ecosystem. Bila dia pulangkan air ni kepada river atau ocean, okay, atau diguna balik untuk manusia. Okay, this is what we call sewage treatment. Di sini ada definition dia. Removing the contaminants, okay, bahan-bahan yang mencemarkan, okay, daripada air pembuangan. Okay, ini maksudnya sewage system. In biology, parasite means the living things, the living things that have to live and live dependently on the host. Dia tak boleh hidup sendiri. Dia kena hidup dengan hidup bersama satu perumah. Dia mesti ada host. Okay, mungkin ambil dia punya makanan daripada dia atau habitat dia, dia membawa harmful effect. Itu parasite, living things. Okay, living things. Tapi parasitism sebenarnya dia benda sama ya. Parasitism adalah kata nama yang menunjukkan interaction. Yang menunjukkan interaction. Contoh ya, saya ambil contoh Plasmodium yang tadi kita mention ini. Okay, Plasmodium species ini. Plasmodium species show parasitism to human. Kamu nampak tak apa maksud dia? Okay. Apa proses? Hanya dari segi ayat sahaja. Dari segi ayat sahaja. Parasitism. Okay, hubungan dia dengan human being. Okay, dengan human being. However, parasitic sebenarnya adalah, okay, ini adalah noun. Ini nama, kata nama. Ini adalah adjective. Adjective. Okay, iaitu contoh ya, adjective ialah the parasitic